In Texas, it was reported that complaints to the CRD, as well as the draft complaints or their contents, had been shared by Lively with multiple media outlets. She even granted one newspaper exclusive access to thousands of pages of text messages and documents, which the outlet reviewed and detailed in a lengthy article published just hours after the draft complaint was filed. Under the headline, "We Can Bury Anyone Inside a Hollywood Smear Machine." Then, on New Year's Eve, the draft complaint, now expanded to a 93-page, 327-paragraph document, was officially filed in the United States Court for the Southern District of New York. However, unlike the CRD and draft complaints, the actual federal complaint did not name Wallace or Street as defendants. Lively was certainly aware of the reason for this omission. There was, and still is, no evidence supporting the statements implicating them. Street, in particular, had no involvement, and the absence of proof likely explains why, just 3 weeks later, Lively initiated a lawsuit in Texas court, seeking to obtain potential evidence of Wallace's alleged involvement. She even hired one of Wallace's former attorneys to lead that lawsuit. In this Texas case, she sued Wallace and Hays County, requesting to depose him. Lively testified under oath before a Texas judge that she needed this discovery to assess potential claims. She also swore that without this evidence, any lawsuit filed against Wallace would be baseless, made in bad faith, or intended for harassment, clearly acknowledging Texas legal standards. Essentially, she went to a Texas court asking for Texas-based evidence from a Texas resident, attempting to support her claims in the CRD and draft complaints, which targeted Wallace and Street, both Texans. She deliberately engaged in legal activity in Texas, paying court filing fees, retaining 3 law firms as legal representatives, and explicitly connecting her Texas lawsuit to the core claims in this federal case, namely, truth, falsity, and fault. Her conscious decision to avoid pursuing the truth during her self-proclaimed investigation is central to both negligence and actual malice. What he aims to demonstrate in this lawsuit is that, contrary to Lively's assertions, Texas does have jurisdiction over her. He emphasizes her active participation in Texas legal proceedings, including hiring local counsel, paying fees, and submitting sworn statements to a Texas judge admitting that without a deposition, her case would be meritless under Texas law. These are not casual ties, they're intentional legal actions. Further bolstering this argument, he notes Lively's physical presence in Texas. She traveled there to attend events like South by Southwest for another simple favor, where she was confronted by a protester shouting, "Justice for Justin," and "Blake lies." Despite the confrontation, she didn't correct or deny the allegations. Instead, she engaged publicly with people like Chip and Joanna Gaines. He argues these interactions support the claim that she inserted herself into Texas jurisdiction. Critically, he highlights her statements to the Texas court under oath that she needed Wallace's deposition, or else risk violating Texas law with a meritless, harassing lawsuit. Yet 3 weeks later, she dropped the case, falsely claiming the New York judge told her to consolidate the matter there. In truth, Judge Lehman made no such suggestion. Lively then filed in New York, naming Wallace and Street, despite knowing they weren't involved in harassment or retaliation. She alleged they violated her rights under California's Fair Employment and Housing Act, acting with malice, fraud, and oppression. According to civil attorney Omar, whom the plaintiff consulted, Lively's behavior amounts to forum shopping, seeking legal advantages across jurisdictions. She went to New York for subpoenas she couldn't obtain in California, and to Texas for a deposition, yet now argues Texas has no jurisdiction. Her filings consistently lump defendants together using vague terms like Wayfair parties, Wayfair team, and defendants, creating the false impression that Wallace and Street were involved in severe misconduct. In her CRD filing, she accused Wallace of acting despicably and maliciously, causing her emotional distress, and placing her in a false light, even though such a claim is not recognized in Texas or New York law. After filing the federal lawsuit in New York, Lively traveled again to Texas, this time with her publicist Leslie Sloan and Jamie Kendall. While there, she was again confronted by a Texas resident who accused her of lying. She didn't respond. Instead, she continued her public appearances, even visiting the Gaines family in Waco. On February 5th, Wallace demanded a retraction, which Lively never issued. On March 7th, she once again invoked Texas legal processes, requesting information under a Texas statute. Actions that contradict her claim that Texas courts have no authority over her. The plaintiffs argue that the draft complaint, shared with the New York Times and others, was not an official legal document. It lacked essential elements like a court name, cause number, official claims, a damages statement, and a lawyer's signature, despite listing legal representatives. It used generalized group allegations, which made it appear that Wallace had committed acts of sexual harassment, even though he hadn't. Key false statements in the draft include that Wallace, a Texas-based contractor, led a national social media campaign. Wallace admits to being Texas-based but denies every other claim. He was not hired by TAG or involved in any campaign. Lively presented these allegations as fact, not allegations without basis. Additionally, Lively stated in the draft that she had discovered the full scope of retaliation, but in her Texas court filing, she claimed to still be investigating Wallace's involvement. This contradiction weakens her credibility and suggests malice. She also claimed that attaching the draft to the CRD complaint would shield her with litigation privilege. However, the CRD doesn't require such attachments, and she explicitly waived any investigation, meaning the CRD played no role in validating her claims. The draft was never made public by the CRD or Wallace. The only way for it to reach the media was if Lively or her team leaked it. The Times published its article within hours of the draft's filing, improbable unless Lively provided it directly. This leak led to a global media frenzy. The CRD and draft complaint appeared in a promotional video posted before December 20th, which contained private allegations Lively would later admit had no factual basis. She had no evidence Wallace or Street retaliated or sexually harassed her. She even admitted she needed to investigate Wallace's actions further. The plaintiffs claim the draft complaint was a publicity stunt, a press release masquerading as a lawsuit, intended to defame Wallace while avoiding the legal consequences. Lively tried to use litigation privilege without having filed a real lawsuit. Wallace, a private figure known for crisis management work, such as helping Bam Margera maintain sobriety for Jackass, was falsely portrayed as a digital warfare agent. In reality, he merely monitored social media without posting anything. The emotional toll has been severe. Lively disclosed Wallace's confidential health information in court filings, despite protections in place in New York. The distress began on December 20, 2024, when the leaked complaint falsely accused him of criminal behavior, triggering mental and physical consequences. Wallace now seeks over $1 million in reputational damages and at least $6 million in punitive damages. To secure this, he must show actual malice, which he argues is clear. Lively made knowingly false allegations, leaked them for media attention, and failed to retract them when offered the opportunity. Even after gaining the chance to investigate, she turned away from the truth and chose instead to continue promoting falsehoods.